All right, so I think you guys have taken your break by now. Sorry for cutting it short, only 5 minutes, but there's so much to cover that maybe we can just jump back in. I think you should all be back by now. It's not like you can go anywhere anyway, so might as well get on with this. All right, so let's go back to our exercise. So I marked it here, I highlighted in yellow what we have done so far. Okay, let's just make sure everything is still working. Recording is on, sharing my screen, and I'm unmuted. Perfect. Okay, so we have done the first few transactions. So we're left here at the inventory user point where we have to now check pending here, inventory user, MB25, and take a look at exactly what would be missing, in terms of transactions. So we'd have to go through quite a few of these transactions. Remember, we have the reservation, we have to approve it, we have to keep updating our notification, then we have to receive the goods, then we have to put them into the warehouse. So the whole process is very long. And also, like Elena was saying yesterday, this doesn't happen in one afternoon. A lot of the times this takes place during several days, even a month of time. And that's why it's so easy to miss steps and to make mistakes. Because if I do something today and I don't recuperate it until a month from now, right, to process it, if somebody wasn't detailing all the steps at the beginning and the notification and the reservation during Migo, whatever, mistakes will happen. That's why it's so important to keep really accurate data in your notification at this point. And it's also very useful to keep T-codes for reports in mind, right? That's why I'm adding them here. And we're going to take a look at these, right? Because you don't necessarily have to remember your notification number. You don't have to necessarily remember your reservation. There are T-codes that allow you to search for them and see which ones are pending to transact. Okay, so now I'm going to log in as the inventory senior user. Okay, and I'm going to approve the reservation that I just created, okay, which is the one 5796. All right, that's the next step here, approve reservation, inventory senior user. So again, once again, I'll just quickly make sure that I'm logged in as the inventory senior user. And now this is the one you have to be careful with, 123 instead of 133. Okay, we go back here. Let's log out quickly. And again, this whole login and log out, like we're saying, if you guys have the roles to do all these transactions, you don't need to do this every time, okay? And I know it could be annoying to be logging in, logging out as a practice exercise, but it also helps you to keep in mind that this is done by a different person. So imagine how many different persons are involved in one step, right? In one step and one transaction, okay? And that's why it's important to do this correctly. So I'm logging in now as the inventory senior user, as we saw yesterday as well. What we do now is we check our inbox in SAP, right? And that is this little icon here, the SAP Business Workplace. If I click on it, here I should receive emails that tell me that I have something to do. So as I am an approver, if I go to my inbox, I should have the latest details for me to review and see what I'm pending to do. So in this case, this person seems to be doing their job. I can't say too well because there's stuff from 2017, but there's not much to do here, right? From 2020, there's only one thing to do, which is the approval of this reservation. And we see material reservation 5796. That's the one that I was just creating 5 minutes ago, right? So here it is. So what do we have to do as approvers? As simple as basically just double clicking and say approve, reject, or cancel. Okay, dear user, there's even a message here to say your attention is required to approve this reservation. Okay, perfect. I can even go in and take a look at it if I want to before I approve this reservation. All right, so if just for the sake of understanding, because honestly, it's very important to understand before I even approve this, right? Let me just not approve this as of yet. I'm going to open another session. Remember this T code MB25, right? If I click on enter and I am the inventory senior user and I want to see if there's anything pending approval, right? I can add my plant 00. Maybe I'm in charge of a specific storage location. In this case, there's really no storage location that I can add here, but I can add a cost center. All right, so I can add my cost center here, the one that I'm responsible to look through, and there's nothing else. I can always select from the bottom. If you guys see here, scope of list, we have open reservations, cancelable, goods movement not possible, issues, or receipts. So maybe I want to see only the receipts instead of the issues, right? Or maybe I want to see everything at once and then filter later on. But I'm checking definitely for open reservations and those that the goods movement is not possible, which means they haven't been approved yet, right? I want to see that. I want to see also those that are incoming for this cost center and this plant. So I'm running this report and I have, as you can see, quite a list, but it's not that long. If you see, it's quite short. If I hadn't filtered out what's coming, right? For example, if I go here and I say issues, cancelable, and I just select it all and I run it, I'm going to have a lot more. See, now the scroll bar is different. And you guys maybe realized quickly that some of these are not highlighted versus others that are. You see, this one is highlighted and the other ones aren't. So what's the difference? Basically, the ones we see highlighted are the ones that are either incoming or outgoing, right, for goods. So we see here GR, used goods, and a specific movement type. Well, we have the others that are basic goods issue that have nothing to do with a return to stock, for example. So we could even filter out the ones that were not highlighted or the ones that are highlighted. So if I keep scrolling down, I see that majority of the movement types here are 201, okay, GI for cost center. So we issued out. This is a reservation for things that are being issued out of inventory versus the goods receipt for goods that are being returned to stock. And I know this return to stock because of the movement type. Okay, I know this is not a goods receipt coming from a physical or a virtual goods receipt. I have my list, again, see, Z01, the highlights versus the non-highlights. Now, remember these columns over here? I have all options, deleted, final issue, and movement allowed. Those that have the X mean they've been approved. Those that don't have the X have not. You could always simply select the column, filter, and say, okay, movement allowed, see what options we have. And we only have either X or not X. So what I want to do is say, okay, X, I'm going to select the X, but I'm going to tell the system, selecting this option here, selection options, I'm going to tell the system I don't want any of these values. So anything that is equal to X, I don't want to see. So I click on that, and now I tell the system, I don't want to see anything with X. And I click on OK, and now I'm only displaying reservations that have not been approved. I can do the same for deleted and say, okay, I want to remove my deleted, okay, and do the exact same thing. I select from the matchbox and say deleted, and I don't want to see deleted, and not equal to, click on the check mark for this one, sorry, it went up to the top, and click on not equal to, and now I'm not going to see my deleted either, right? So now I only see allowed and not deleted, and I can do the same for final issue. Okay, so the reports are things you guys are going to be dealing with a lot in liquidation because you're going to need to understand what's going on, what's pending, what's incoming, what I need to approve, what not. And it's very interesting for you to understand how you can manage these columns, right? With filters, you can even display new options. If you change the layout, you'll have possibility to either display, remove displayed columns or add new options that are not displayed in this specific section either. So let's get rid of this. Let's go back. And now let's just check for those that are received and open. Okay, and goods movement not possible. We run this. We can directly go and see, let me just close this. We see now they're all highlighted in yellow. We still see those that have been approved, okay, which I can always remove this. We can simply select a reservation number if we already know it. All right, if I basically wanted to add my reservation number here, I could add 5796 and click on check mark, and I would only have one result. Okay, but that's of course if I know my my reservation. If I get rid of this, sorry, if I select here and I get rid of this, for example, if I just delete any of the filters, click on OK, they'll all show up again. I can even filter by requirement date if I want to show the 2020, requirement date. If I want to show the latest first, I can always click here and scroll back up, and we'll see that the latest 2020 is at the top. All right, and I can always just go there. I can filter by any sort of material, description, or any other option. So I have the 5796, and I see that it doesn't have an X under movement allowed, so I know that this is still pending. If I remove all my X's from here, okay, like we did before, we will only see the ones that are not approved. And then I have less things to worry about and less things on my screen. See, look at that. I only have these to worry about now. Again, the majority of 2017, so this is too late, but the only one I have to worry about is this one. Okay, so it's very important to understand what we're doing. We're not just opening our inbox, double clicking on approve, and we're good to go. We're understanding why we're doing things, right? So 5796 is my reservation. That's what I have to do. I can even double click on it, review it to see if something is missing here and say, okay, well, this looks pretty good. Go back, close my screen here and say, okay, now I'm going to approve it. That is actually what this inventory senior user should do, and not just click on approve without even giving it a second thought. Okay, so here we go. Is that the last thing that the inventory senior user has to do? Let's check. So we entered the T code MB25, we searched, we saw our reservations, we went to our inbox in SAP, we approved, and once we approved, we can even go back to MB22 and now see that that movement, remember that movement allowed checkbox, now would be checked. Okay, I can do that quickly and show you, and then we'll log in as the notification user. And what do we do now in the notification? We write down the reservation number that has been processed. Okay, so quickly, I go back here. I can run MB22. Okay, see, I'm not authorized to use MB22 as the inventory senior user. So here, I'm blocked. This would happen if you don't have that role, right, to do what I want to do, which is edit a reservation. I can approve it, but I can't edit it according to the restrictions that I have based on my role. So honestly, just for the sake of time, I don't need to go back to prove that it's been approved. It's been approved, so I'm just going to log out of this, go back to my cover page, and now log in as the notification user. So we go back to our cover page. I hate when this does that, but it's the OneDrive option. Every time I select something, it scrolls up. Okay, so here we go, notification user, go back in, double click, paste my user and my password Umoja 133 now, okay, 123 only for the inventory senior user. And what am I doing here? Remember, our T code is IW52, we're editing our notification. So I'm clicking and here's my notification field. All right, and now we can do the following. I can click on the spacebar because I've been working on this for the past 45 minutes and I know it's this one. But what happens if I went on vacation, right? I went on a 2-week vacation, then R&R. By the time I come back, a month and a half has gone by and I don't remember anything that just happened. But I still need to edit the notification. There's also a T code for this that we should use, which is the IW29 list of notifications. Okay, so that's a report that now we're going to pull very quickly, just for you guys to understand that you don't need to memorize these things. You don't need to write them down on a piece of paper, but you can always use our T codes, the T codes, sorry, not our T codes, to display notifications that are either completed, in process, postponed, outstanding. We can find the notification, functional location based on equipment, on material. We can basically search by who created it, when it was created. If we have that reference, there's a ton of fields here that we can look through. The malfunction start date. We can even, let's go down here to maybe maintenance plant location. Maybe maintenance plant is our best option because we know that the plant in charge was US00, correct? We have cost center, even that can help us, right? We do know that. These are things we don't forget. So we have our plant and our cost center. Maybe we don't need to add anything else to get a good report. We're also notification date. I knew that this happened before I went on vacation, so maybe I just want to say 01/04/2020 and run this. So if I put a previous date, I'm going to have more let's say more results. So I'm just going to run this and see what it tells me. So in this case, it's showing me that it's jumping directly into a notification, maybe because that's the one that it finds automatically. So maybe we can just get rid of these dates right now, just to see if I get more options instead. And there you go. Okay, so if I got rid of the dates, I just kept my cost center and my plant, and here's my list of notifications based on the date too. So again, we can do what we did before, reverse and sort. And here we go. My top notification, 1690, is the one that I actually, it's not the 1690, I think the notification is 1705. Okay, this is the handover. This is from Elena's yesterday. So maybe we can search for the description, or maybe actually my notification is not there yet based on the selection that I have created here, right? In process, outstanding. Let's see if I click out of in process, if I can get a better result from that. Or maybe depending on the date that I added, I also have an issue here and I'm not getting the proper results. Okay, but when we run this report, you should be able to find the type of notification. So let me go back and just write down my notification number here and see what's going on with this. 1231705. Maybe it's the cost center that I added. Okay, so let me get rid of the dates here too. And let me get rid of the cost center. Let me run this. Maybe it's the plant too. So it depends on what it is that I am selecting. And let me run and see what could be an issue here. All right, so just because you're running the report and it doesn't return results, it doesn't mean that it's wrong, but you may be missing a step. So I removed all the information. I just kept my notification number. I'm running it and I want to see why maybe it's not showing up. Okay, we have our planner group, we have our plant, we have our cost center. Here, location data is still the cost center 1002. Maybe it's because of the status of the notification. It could be anything that I haven't performed yet, and that's why my notification is not showing in my report here. And it's only showing the ones that are completed, okay, whether I'm not selecting it or not. Okay, but this is the report that you guys should use, IW29, that will show you the notifications, okay, the display of notifications. And based on the selections, the dates, the plant, the cost center that you add, you'll have your list of them. Always be careful on what you're selecting here, postponed, completed, and so on, and make sure that you fill in the proper information. I'm just adding the plant once again and relaunching this to see if maybe I'm luckier this time around. And here you go. All right, so there you go. What I did this time around to get my correct answer, which is more notifications than the ones I wanted to see, even though I'm still getting the 2 computer handovers and I'm not getting the one I want. So not a good example. I should be getting my notification number here too. Okay, I think it's because of the date that I added. Nonetheless, I don't know why it's not showing me this one right about now. Okay, so that's that for the report of notifications. I'm just going to close this window, go back here, add my notification number, which is the 1705. I'm going to click on it, and let's add my reservation number. Okay, and my reservation number, again, as we've been using, is 5796. And now there's proof that I did the reservation because I'm adding the number here too. Maybe even under the tasks now, I can say that the reservation was approved. The notification is approved. The notification was processed, create a manual reservation. Maybe all these 3 tasks can now be completed as well. Let's see. Let's go back to our body and let's follow the instructions one by one so we don't get lost. We went back to IW52. We're adding our reservation number. And now exactly, right? We're completing all tasks up to approve reservation because that's what's been done. And we're clicking on the flag for completion and then we're saving our notification. I'm going back and I'm doing exactly that. All the way up to approve reservation. We have completed. We go to our flag at the bottom for complete. Remember, not the one on the top. We complete, and now we have these tasks completed too. So we still have work to do, right? Step 7, update notification with, let's see what, with the equipment. All right, that's not very descriptive, right? With the equipment U, yeah, we'll see what that means. Update equipment status and valuation type. Bring equipment back into stock, and so on. So let's see, these are the steps that are required. So right now it seems that we have to update the notification and then update the equipment status. Okay, so we're going to go back a little bit to what Elena was doing yesterday too, which is go to our equipment and start enriching, right, that piece of equipment and start adding details to it. Let's go back to our body and see that now we have to log in as the equipment master data maintainer. So we're doing what we did yesterday. We're going to go into the T-code IE02, and we're going to start removing information or changing information according to what we're supposed to be doing for a return to stock process. You see how many people are involved and how important it is for everybody to do things right. Imagine we skip this step now for the equipment update, and what we do is we just go to MiGo directly, receive this, put it away, and we're good to go. And we had to actually do this step on the equipment master data maintainer local, right? We have to go to the equipment and update it. If we don't do this, and the system, when we run through MiGo, is not going to warn us and say, hey, the master data maintainer did not make changes to the equipment. The system is going to allow us to process the MiGo transaction without this. So this is, you see a chain of events that have to make sense together. So let's do that quickly. We log in as the equipment master data maintainer. And again, sorry for all these back and forth. Okay, so we have the SD11, which is here, equipment master data maintainer. We copy, we go back. And now before I actually finish this, since we have done all this, the tasks, and we have completed them, I can just save, make sure my notification is saved. And now I can log out. All right, so I'm logging back in. We're adding the now the SD11, Umoja 133, and now we're doing the IE02 T-code and the piece of equipment, right, that we're supposed to change, right, or manipulate at this point. So we go back to our body and let's see. So it says here a new session and insert the equipment, select the ID from your cover page. Again, you can also run a report and look for the equipment. At this point, you should know what the equipment is. So again, let's just, for time's sake, go and copy and paste our equipment ID, this time not our material. And we add our equipment ID here. And here you go. Here's our computer tablet with this specific equipment ID, right, that this computer tablet has. We see that the status is installed and assigned, okay, because it was installed in the system, yes. And also it was assigned to a user, right? So if in this case it's returning to stock, maybe because somebody was using it, we can't keep the status as assigned because now it's not assigned to anybody anymore. Now it's back in stock. So we have to tell the system that. If I don't tell the system that, this remains as assigned and installed, and it's also actually linked to a specific location. If we go to our cert data tab here, we're going to see that it's linked. We have the computer tablet here. The structure, I think, yes, sorry, the structure tab. We see our functional location. And so everything would remain the same. And what we're telling the system is that this equipment is still belonging to somebody, is still assigned to someone, and it's assigned to this functional location or linked to this functional location. And if we even check the partner assignment, we can see that we still have a user accountable here, Aquila. Okay, is still assigned, this equipment is still assigned to Aquila, still assigned to a functional location, and is still under status assigned. So you realize why it's important that we have to go back in and change this status. This is what we were doing yesterday, and we're going to do that again today because we're returning the item to stock, so it's no longer assigned to a specific person. Let's go to our body and let's make some changes, right? First thing here is to add criteria, select the structure tab in order to remove functional location of the IT device because this IT device is now not linked to any functional location. And we're going to click on the icon here and we're going to dismantle this equipment from this functional location and it's going to go blank. Okay, so let's go to Citrix. We have our equipment here. Let's go back to our general tab and let's start from here. Okay, so where are we going? We're not going to location. We're not going to organization. We're going to the structure tab. We see our functional location and we're going to click on the icon here and make sure we dismantle it. Okay, now it's blank. And when I click on the check mark, there's no functional location linked to this tablet anymore, right? I'll have to save, of course, but right now there's nothing linked to it. So that's one of my first steps. I'm going to go back to the body, make sure that we continue and say that we have to click on the icon status tab and verify that equipment is available, system status, and change user status to idle. So based on the change that I've made, instead of the equipment now, which we see here is still available, or it has changed. I've done it so quick that I didn't realize, but the user status is still assigned. That's the one that we change manually. Remember, we were discussing this with Elena and with Daniel yesterday. System status changes automatically based on the changes we do in the system, but the user status has to be done manually. So we are responsible to change this option from assignment to idle, or in maintenance, or in transit, or not found, right? The options that we have here. So which option are we selecting? According to the instructions of this particular exercise, what we're doing is we're changing it to idle, because it's not assigned, it's not in maintenance, it's not in transit, it's found. We know that the equipment is there, it's not in write-off process, etc. So the first thing we're doing is that we're changing the status to idle. And now we move back. And here we go. Our system status is available. Our equipment is idle. There's no functional location. Very, very critical step. And I think I hear somebody there. Maybe we also need... Yes.
I have a question here.
Yes.
Sometimes due to various reasons, it could be error, human errors, or sometimes you need to restore an history, right? Where can you find a log of all these transactions? Let's say I noticed that you dismantle location, you change the status, user status. Where can you assess this information for further analysis later on? Thank you.
Okay. Yeah, no, very, very good question, right? To see exactly what has happened to that piece of equipment throughout its history. So we saw that yesterday in the BI report, that there's an option to pull a BI report and see that, the history of changes for an equipment. But I also remember, and this is something that's going to refresh my memory now, okay, that there was an option, I'm not sure in this T code exactly, but I think there was an option to follow and see last measurement documents or new entries. I'm not sure, so bear with me here. If somebody remembers it by heart,
Ryan,
tell me.
Ryan,
yes.
It should be in Share Data tab.
Okay, let's go here.
History.
There you go. There it is. There it is. Very good. Thank you. Exactly, right? So here we have our history of what's going on. So thank you for that. Okay, I always need a refresher of memory too. And we see that what's been going on with this piece of equipment from the beginning. It may be a little difficult to understand, right? So let's see.
Also, if I may jump in again, there's action log button.
Right here.
Right there, exactly. By clicking on that, there are further information also on the whatever has been changed based on the equipment record we are in. So just as an example, the technical object authorization group has been added, for example. The object ID has been added, the functional location has been added, the status has been amended. So in chronological order, there are all the information related to all the transactions related to the equipment.
Very good. So let's see, let me do this, and we'll start with maybe the sort in ascending order here, and let's see from there you go. That would be our best option, right? To sort in ascending order from the date. So we know that from the 16th of April, this is what's happened to this piece of equipment, and even the time that it happened, right? And exactly all the changes that have happened.
And the user.
And the user, which is very...
changed by, okay, this is a system, let's say system-driven transaction. In cases, you see, Maria Soledad has done something on this equipment record.
And very important, right? Accountability, right? To see if Maria Soledad did something wrong, we know who to look for, right? Or this user here, 011 PRNGID, has done this specific action, and we see that it wasn't correct, right? Very good.
But
so
not only for the correctness or incorrectness, just to rebuild the history, as John Lucas was rightly referring to. Yeah.
Very good. Thank you guys. Thank you guys for these tips. It's difficult to remember every button and every step, but this is so important. So I'm glad that you guys brought this up, right?
And
so let's...
Brian?
Yes, Sol?
Just a minute. Could you repeat the steps to get to this log? Yeah,
I was about to do that. Yes.
Yeah, thank you.
So, because I know that when we do it once, sometimes it's not enough. So let's do this again, right? What we were wanting to know, right, for this specific computer tablet, since we're doing all these changes, and these changes are important, if we want to know the history of transactions or the history of changes that this piece of equipment has undergone throughout the time, under the tab Cert Data here, where we see material, serial number, and so on, we have a history button. If we click on this history button, we see the history of transactions that have occurred with this piece of equipment. But more importantly, as we were seeing before, we also see an action log. Okay, so for example, if we have a material document for this specific equipment for a transaction that has occurred, it's there too, and we could actually even double click on it and navigate to this transaction to see what it is. Something happened on the 16th, okay, which is a material document here, and something happened on the 22nd. So we have to see what this is. But if we want to know by time, by date, what exactly has happened and who has done these transactions, when it occurred, and so on, the action log button here at the top is the one that's going to show us these details. Okay, we can always manage and sort and see the earliest date to the latest by time, exactly what happened, what was the change, and who performed it. So very, very, very important buttons to click on in order to understand what's been going on with a piece of equipment. Actually, this is probably something that you'll be doing all the time, right? During liquidation, if you're assigned to this specific task or you're reviewing what's been happening with a piece of equipment or why you're getting a certain error, it's worth definitely going to this Cert Data tab, clicking on the history and reviewing what's been going on with this piece of equipment. So thank you guys very much for this reminder. Okay, very
Brian,
yes, Nico.
okay, if it was originally migrated from Galileo, you won't find all the history, okay? So only for item purchased after the GDP. So you can find a proper history starting from the receiving point to all the steps later on, okay? Because if we're migrated before the GDP from Galileo to Umoja, this history doesn't bring this history tab didn't gives you all the proper information. Okay.
All right, thank you so much, Nico. And now that you're bringing that up, I want to bring something else up that was also discussed a few days ago. The serial number and the last serial number, right? So I remember some of these, of course, have the same one, like here. But in other cases, the last serial number is different from the serial number that we have now. And we were discussing this on day 2. This is related to the technical ID number in Galileo, right? Which was the serialization number or the equipment number in Galileo of that material, correct? So if I see this last serial number different, does that means automatically that this is one of those pieces of equipment that was migrated from Galileo? So then I can understand maybe why I don't have a history. Or that's not always the case? If I see last serial number different from my new one, sorry. Because I remember during ramp up, right, we would have this issue, not all the time, but it would come up that we would have one serial number here and a different one at the bottom. And this one was usually linked to the technical ID number that was given in Galileo. But it wasn't always the case. I know there were some exceptions.
Actually, I don't remember where, but if it's not wrong, it's related to the typology of item. It's related to the PID that gives you a range of equipment number from this one to the last one, but probably it's not what I'm talking about. Actually, I don't know what I'm talking about, but it's not related to the migration for sure.
Okay, not in all the cases, right? But I know there were some that it was. It's just something that the students may encounter when deployed, that the last serial number is different from the new one, right? I mean, it's not something you have to worry about automatically, but it's something that you may encounter. And I know we were discussing this on the first day or second day.
I have a question for Nico and Nicole and those people. When we transfer an asset from one plant to another, we do enrichment, correct?
No, not that. I mean, the main data in terms of manufacturer serial number, all the one that we needed, it remains.
But the asset number changes for fixed assets, yeah?
That one, yes, but the main data of the items like equipment number or the one edited at enrichment level are migrated. No need to touch again.
Okay, and just as a matter of interest, why does the asset number change?
It's more a fixed asset account issue, and I mean, not our, no, I won't say not our business, but it's related to that business topics, the fixed assets one.
Okay, thanks.
Okay, because it's mainly the asset number, right? Not the material number itself.
No, if may I, actually, when you transfer, talking about fixed asset, usually you transfer two different pieces, two different documents. Okay, we transfer the equipment record, and then we transfer the asset record. We have to remember that those two documents are managed in two different, let's say, environment, in two different modules, because the fixed asset is managed into the fixed asset register, while the equipment record is managed into the inventory one, into the logistic execution. So when you transfer the fixed asset, basically automatically the system, whoever receive it, it change automatically the asset number from mission to mission. This happens when you do the intermission transfer. Okay. So, but remember that there are always two different documents. One is the asset record and one is the equipment record.
Thanks, Angelo. And that brings us all the way back to day one, right? When we were seeing the asset and the master record, and we saw that we had an asset master record, and then we had an equipment master record too.
Yeah.
So eventually those two need to be, you know, they don't work, you don't change one and the other one changes automatically, right? You need to work in parallel.
And always you need to link. When you're receiving it the first time, you need to link the asset record to the, or when you created a new equipment record, you have to link the asset record.
Okay. Yeah, tomorrow is the day for transfers, so I'm sure we're going to have a lot of questions during those transactions. All right, so thank you guys. I know we're
just to confirm that the last serial number is related to the material number, okay? I mean, it's the last serial number up to that particular PID.
Okay, so it was the last serial number assigned to that material?
To that PID, yes.
Okay. All right, so simply that, and that's why sometimes we have different ones, because it was the last time we did a transaction, I guess, we assigned a different serial number to this equipment, maybe throughout a transfer or a goods receipt or something like that.
It's just an, in fact, it's not editable. It's just a sort of info related to that material number. And, that's it.
But always assigned when we select the serialization, right? The automatic serialization.
No. Nothing to do with the equipment itself. I mean, this in this case, the 272 final is assigned at receiving level. Okay.
Yes.
That's when we serialize this item. So and that's it. This last serial number is retrieved automatically from the system in order to give us the information related to the material number, the product ID. It's in the system, the last serial number related to that PID is the 4225.
Okay, so in a way, it's the system kind of like giving it another reference number for a product ID. So there's like three references: the material, the serial, and then the last serial for this one computer tablet.
Brian? Sorry to interrupt. Pietro shared in the chat exactly the same, that this last serial number refers to a range of serials active for that particular PID. It's a kind of internal, I don't know exactly.
Yeah, internal reference, right? I guess for the system. Okay, that makes a lot of sense. All right, perfect. I just wanted to make sure that was clear, because I still felt it was quite confusing out there and wondering why these were different. And I didn't think we really answered that question on day 2. Okay, so I just wanted to bring that back. Okay, I know we're running short on time, but let's just try to finish this transaction here. So let me just remember where we were, at what point. So we changed the user status to idle, and now what we want to do is now select the SIR data tab, which is the one we're on, and we're going to change the valuation type from new, because it was new at the beginning, right, when the item was issued for this particular task, but now it's old because it's coming back and it's been used. So we're going to change that to in the equipment. See, right now it says new sup, and what we're going to do is call it old sup. Okay, so we're changing that here in the equipment registry too. Just because we added it in the reservation, you see it doesn't affect the equipment record. That's why it's important to follow all the steps properly. We have now old supply instead of new supply. We changed the equipment status, the user status, to idle because it's no longer assigned. And we also saw that there is no functional location now. And basically, that should be our last step. And now we can save. And now the system user status and valuation type have been changed in this transaction. Okay, so let's save this.
Brian?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Sorry to interrupt again. Can you go back again to the equipment edited? Because sometimes when equipment is assigned, it can be assigned only as a, let's say, install and linked to a functional location. And sometimes it's assigned to a user accountable. And in this case, maybe you would find user accountable or not. If you find it, you should remove it as well from the tab partner. Partner. If you click on this, on the tabs, in these tabs, maybe.
No, I see exactly what you mean. I think it's because in this exercise, I think it's a step that we added later, I think. See, that's why. But you're right. I think this should be done right now, because if we already removed the user assigned, right, to idle, why don't we just remove the user, right?
Sorry, maybe I anticipated it.
No, but I think it's important. And actually, I think it makes more sense to do it at this point. We've changed, right, the user status here to idle. So if we did that, might as well remove the user accountable, right? In the exercise, I put it after the Migo transaction, but I'm thinking that maybe I'll just switch that and put it before, because it makes a lot more sense. If we don't do it at this point, we may forget to do it, and this user will still be assigned to it here, right? The equipment will be idle, but the user will still be there.
Brian,
yes,
it's a very interesting point. It just caused a lot of problems in the liquidation because people didn't remove the names, right? And there was some arguments between the warehouse supply chain and ourselves mostly about whether this stuff actually came back to the warehouse, simply because it still showed the item still under a staff member's name. So for sure, either the staff member's name should be removed. Thanks.
Very good. Thank you, Joseph, and thanks, Sol. So exactly, right? Thanks for that reminder. Even though it was at a later stage here, what I'll do also, I'll edit the exercise and make sure that this step is added together with the one before, okay? And because basically it makes more sense. And like Joseph is saying, it's a very common issue. So we just simply select the user. Is there anything else?
No, it's okay. Thank you, Brian.
Okay, very good. And we undo, right, the partner assignment. Let's get rid of this. The system tells us data will be lost. We say yes, and there you go. Okay, vendor we keep, assignment, and user is gone. And now we can definitely say that we are up to date with the changes in the equipment record. But you see how easy it is to forget a step, not do something, and generate an issue that is going to just go and grow and grow and affect every other transaction. Okay, so we click on Save Now, and now we are sure 100% that we have performed everything we need to in terms of equipment. And now let's go back up in our exercise, because this step showed up at the end. And one of our last steps to receive this material into our inventory is our good friend Migo, right? Let's gonna use the Migo transaction again, and let's receive this material into inventory. But again, remember, like on day 2, we're only receiving into inventory, then we have to receive to the warehouse. Okay, if not, we just have one record in the inventory management structure, but not in the warehouse management. Okay, and that's why if you guys see here, basically we have performed these transactions here as well. We can highlight this as completed, but we still need to do more work, right? We have to do our Migo. Then this equipment update we can skip because we already did this, right? This would be the one that I added for the equipment record. So I'll make sure we add it, I remove this one. And then we do warehouse senior user, warehouse user, and so on. These are easy, and maybe we can do these quickly. Let's go with Migo now and sign in as inventory user and make sure that we perform our transaction in Migo. Cool. So let me just copy this, go back to Citrix, quickly get out of the environment here, go back in, a quick paste, and here we go, 133. And we go to our good old friend Migo here. Okay, so what do? Since we have created a reservation, right? We have a reservation number. We can simply select the option for receipt. Okay, we have other options here, but we have a receipt option. But in this case, remember what we did on day 2? We did it from an inbound delivery document. In this case, this is a return to stock. So what we're doing is we're doing it from a reservation. And now I'm doing a goods receipt from a reservation because this is not the same thing as receiving goods from the vendor, but receiving goods that were being used in the mission. So we have our reservation, which is 5796, and we execute, and look what happens, right? Just like what we did with our inbound, we have the, here I see it says addition to stock in the movement type here. I'm gonna just make sure that we're doing the correct thing. We see our computer tablet, we have all the information, and all the tabs are pre-populated with the information from the reservation, okay, which is very important. Now let's take a look at this addition to stock, because as far as we know, we were doing a return to stock. So why is it now telling me addition to stock Z21? If you click on the matchbox, right, and let's take a look at this very quickly before we finalize the transaction. I know the time is up. But if you guys don't mind, let's take a look at these movement types here, and let's go to Z21. We have an addition to stock here, and then we have another addition to stock, okay? One for the cost center, one here with a different nomenclature. So in a sense, the reason why it's changing, sometimes the nomenclature of the movement type can be a bit confusing when you're taking a look at it. A lot of the times it's because it'll use the same name as something else, but it's a reverse transaction. Okay, we could always use the goggles here and look for a return. Maybe if there's a return here, we have here return delivery to vendor. So we see that maybe that is the correct option, even though the nomenclature is a bit confusing. Okay, let's go to our document here and let's see what it says. We add our reservation. And basically, we should go on with what we have. Now, if you guys that deal with this more often and have seen this happen before, where you add your reservation number, in this case, 5796, click on execute and then realize, see, now I'm doing this twice because I already had it here. I can remove this option. All right, let's just run through this one more time. It's something that always confuses me a bit. Why once we add our reservation number and do things properly here and execute this, we have a very confusing movement type assigned to it, which is not the one that we added at the beginning. We see that the information here is correct, but the movement type could make us think that we're doing something else. Okay, so I'm moving through and I see here, see, movement type Z01, GR used goods, unrestricted, and where it's going. We even have our reservation number, so we know we're dealing with the correct option here. But as I'm saying, it may confuse us that it changes here directly to add to stock in the valuation. So we know that we're doing things correctly so far. We know that it's a computer tablet, so what should we be doing at this point through the Migo transaction? We see that everything is correct. Maybe we can just click on item OK, and check first, right? If I'm missing something. And let's see. This is one of the first things we should do. And what does it tell us? Maintain serial numbers for total quantity. So I'm like, okay, so I have to maintain the serial numbers Remember when we did the goods receipt the first time around, we did that here in the tab serial numbers, and we make sure that we create serial numbers automatically. Before I do that, let's check what the exercise is telling me to do, right? So we see that we know where things are going, and watch what happens here. Check that the information is correct. In the serial number tab, enter the serial number and use the serial number for the equipment of the exercise cover page. Okay, so in this specific case, if we were receiving goods that were not serialized previously, right, we would be using this option to say, okay, create serial numbers automatically, but this was already in our inventory, so we should already have a serial number, right, linked to this. And in this case, in our cover page, we do have an equipment ID number here that we could use to add the serial number that we already have. And then maybe after doing this, if I check, we should be okay. Okay, and there you go. If I add and create a new serial number, I may, let's say this particular case, okay, what I was just about to do now, right? If I was not really paying attention to the steps. And this is a last question that goes out to before I run the Migo transaction. What happens now? I select create serial number automatically, and I perform this transaction instead of adding the serial number that I already know I have. What am I doing to the system in this case? And I'm throwing this question out there again. Would this be a critical mistake? Is the system going to prevent me from doing this? Should I add the serial number that was there before? What is the mistake I can make at this point?
Brian?
Yeah.
Josefa is typing in the chat that it would create a duplicate entry.
Okay, very good. All right. So if I do select create serial numbers automatically, we're telling the system add a serial number to this material, but this one already has it. So we have a duplication of serialization here. So we should always add the one that we already have in mind. So again, a different step to what we did receiving goods physically and virtually. We add the serial number because we already have it. Remember, we're returning goods to stock that were already there in the first place. So we already did the goods receipt at one point in time. All right, so I add the serial number here manually. I check and I see my document is okay. Once again, before I just start clicking away, let me just make sure everything is fine. And yes, I'll post and I'll get my material document number before I continue. So let's go back here, let's post. And if everything's okay, we should have our material document number here, which is the one with the 49 at the bottom of the screen, right? So 49 29271. Okay. And there you go. This is something else we're going to have to add to the notification to say proof of Migo transaction. All right, so we would have to go back to the notification to add the material document. We're going to have to go back to add the TR and go back to add the TO. So we still would have to go back 3 times if we want to do things properly. Okay, again, it's not a requirement, but these things will always help in the long run. And now it's 12:10. I know we have to have lunch. Maybe I can leave it here and we can finish the process in the afternoon, if that's okay with you guys. Anything you want to ask before we close the morning session?
Brian, we don't have any questions in the chat, but I would like to remind everybody that I'm posting right now the link to the survey for this morning session, just for you guys to know your opinion, how can we improve, and how is it going. So thanks a lot, and if you can answer, we would appreciate if you could answer this short survey.
Absolutely. Thanks again, Sol. Daniel always reminds me of this survey, and thank you for reminding us. Okay, yeah, so please take a few minutes, just answer the survey so we know how we can improve our training. And thanks for the comments here, Daniel. I'm taking a look at your comment too. It's important to underline that dismantling a piece of equipment comprises 2 steps: remove functional location, remove BP. Very good. Okay, exactly, right? So we do those 2 actions at the same time, and I'm going to change that in my exercise too. All right, so thank you all. If there's nothing else, just make sure you fill in the survey and enjoy your lunch.